I think if something is a tale of our time, if it resonates with an audience in a way that maybe isn't able to be found in other media of the time or other media they've previously encountered.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Times. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle books, movies, podcasts, and more. Where there's a story, there's a reason to read. Or watch in today's case. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and joining me today is a very special returning guest, Carly Trautwein, all the way from Seattle, Washington. Welcome, Carly.
Hello.
Thanks for coming back.
Yes, absolutely. I'm excited to talk about this.
So before we get started, is there anything that you'd like to say to introduce yourself?
Well, like you said, I'm in the Seattle area. I'm a neurodivergent adult still figuring out day by day what that means for me and how I interact with the world. Kind of fun. I grew up in a household where my mom was an elementary ed professor. So my sister and I had a very wide range of classic, wonderful children's books at our fingertips. And I think that really shaped my taste in the coming years.
I love that. I'm definitely like a children's literature proponent here on this show often. On that note, what are we talking about today?
So I wanted to talk about Where the Wild Things Are. And that's something I think most people are probably familiar with as a book. It's a very classic children's book. And most people who haven't read it have probably at least seen the illustrations elsewhere. It's by Maurice Sendak, who's a very well-known and well-loved children's author. Unfortunately, he passed a few years ago, but he's really made an impact on the world of children's books.
Yeah.
But also I want to talk about the movie adaptation that I believe came out in 2008. It had mixed reviews, but it's really resonated with me over the years. And I thought it was an excellent adaptation.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to talk about this because in our first episode, you mentioned that this movie was a great adaptation of a book. So it's kind of been like
one of the best I've run across, for sure.
Yeah, and like that is not usually what I hear when people talk about book to movie adaptations, especially children's books. So I am looking forward to seeing how they were able to carry that into a movie format.
Yeah.
Now, before we get started into the movie, which I think is going to take more of a summary section, there might be some people out there who haven't read the book. So would you like to give a very quick summary of what happens in this book? It's not very long.
Yeah, I think it's like 13 sentences. It's been a while since I read that, but most of the story is told through illustrations.
Yeah.
But it's about a boy named Max who is kind of a rambunctious, kind of troublesome kid. He's in his wolf costume and he's making trouble around the house. So his mom sends him to bed without supper. And while he is in his room, a forest grows. A little boat shows up for Max with his name on it, and he sails off to this island that is the land of the wild things, and immediately is able to intimidate them and make himself their king. And the first order of business is to have a wild rumpus to basically just run around and be crazy and have fun.
I mean, kind of like imagine if you have cats or dogs and they get the zoomies, but then imagine it's with children running around and stomping. But some of the children are also monsters, and then that's kind of what the wild rumpus is implied to be. Monsters. Yeah. So that's what the rumpus looks like in the illustrations.
After they've done the wild rumpus, they fall over into a pile to rest, and Max starts smelling home on the breeze and realizes that he's had his fun here. He wants to go home. He says goodbye to the wild things, and they have this very famous line, "Please don't go. I'll eat you up. I love you so." But Max departs, sails back across the ocean to his room where the trees slowly disappear. And when he gets home, his supper is waiting for him. And there's a last photo in the book of him just sitting there with his mom eating his soup. And it's very cozy.
It's a very sweet little book. Very relatable to anyone who has ever dealt with children.
Yeah.
Or been a child, I would
argue. Because they always have those moments of wild.
Oh, Yeah. Yeah, so that's the book. It's very sweet. Like you said, it's told a lot through illustrations. I would believe you that it is 13 sentences. If that sounds really short to you listeners, imagine like it's a children's book. So the sentences are sometimes broken up over several pages.
Yeah, like there's several pages where they're just describing like the forest grew the next
Right.
page and grew the next
Right.
page and grew,
It's very
sort of
charming.
escalating in that way.
So now the movie is what I'm excited to get into because as now listeners can know, that really is kind of all that happens in the book. And so could you give us a summary then of the movie Where the Wild Things Are?
Yeah, yeah. So I think I'll preface this by saying I think the movie Where the Wild Things Are, I wouldn't say it's inappropriate for kids, but I think it is made more for the adults that those kids
Mm-hmm.
grew up into because it has a lot of
Scary imagery.
complicated emotions. And yeah, I mean there's some scary moments as well.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe like older children, like tweens or like 9 and
yeah,
up, 8,
exactly.
9.
It depends on the kid, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
But the difference that the movie makes is that they delve a lot more into Max's, home life and personality, and then the world of the wild things and their characters. So the
Mm-hmm.
way this starts out is we see Max, who is, I'd say he's maybe 9 or 10. He has divorced parents. He lives with his mom, but has visits with his dad.
Mm-hmm.
He has an older sister, Claire, who he really admires and wants to hang out with, but she's a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes clear pretty quickly that it's nobody's fault, but he's not really getting the attention that he wants and needs from his household.
Yeah.
Like there's one instance where he is building a snow fort and Claire's friends are having a snowball fight with him and things go a little bit too far and
Yeah.
his snow fort gets smashed.
Oh
And
no.
because he's mad at his sister, dumps a bunch of snow in her room and starts throwing stuff around. He's not good
Yeah.
at emotional regulation.
He's acting out because he's upset.
Right. So then we go later into the evening, and his mom, who he also is very close to and a bit needy for, has a
Mm-hmm.
date, and the date is at the house, and he's trying to get the attention of his mom when she's busy with someone else,
Yeah.
and so this time he doesn't feel heard. He starts challenging his mom, arguing with her. He gets up on the counter and starts kind of throwing a tantrum. I wouldn't call it a tantrum because he's a little too old for that, but
Yeah.
he's having an outburst.
Yeah.
And at the crest of this, he actually runs out of the house and down the street to like a nearby park. So that's where we get into more of the fantasy world, and the boat shows up at this park/lot. They show this sequence of Max sailing over the sea, and then
Yeah.
finally he comes to an island where he sees someone has lit fire. So he figures there's somebody there. And the first encounter he has with the wild things is one of them is running around destroying the houses that they live in.
Oh, that the
And
wild wait, that the
yeah,
wild things live in, that the
yeah,
other ones live in?
that the wild things live in. One of them is just breaking them, destroying them, running around saying, "Doesn't anybody else care?"
Okay.
And we don't know what they're talking about, but
Yeah.
Max clearly feels aligned with this one wild thing who isn't feeling heard. And
Mm-hmm.
so he joins in and starts trying to smash the houses. And we have this moment where it looks like he might get eaten by the wild things, but he makes up this backstory for himself and convinces them that he should be their leader.
Yeah.
And once they have a king, all of a sudden everybody is more calm. They feel like they have somebody there who's going to solve their
They
problems.
have a guiding presence, you could say.
Yeah. So then we follow the plot of the original book where they start running around on their wild rumpus. We start being introduced to the individual wild things. The sort of main one who was destroying the houses is named Carol. There's one who's called KW who has kind of branched off from the main group to go hang out with other friends, which is
Mm-hmm.
the main source of this conflict that they're having.
Oh, okay.
Because Carol really doesn't want KW to leave and is jealous of her new friends, and the other ones are not particularly concerned with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is sort of the situation that Max is called upon to solve.
Okay.
And so he starts trying to solve this with kid logic, which is, okay, we're going to build a big fort for us all to live in. And the fort's going to have all this cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we're going to be a family again.
Yeah. We're going to all do this and it's going to be great and everyone's going to love it and we're not going to fight anymore because everyone's going to love the fort.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
And so, of course, things don't work out exactly like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they never do. There's conflict here and there. And then what finally sets things off is that he goes off to talk to KW and her new friends, who turn out to be a pair of owls called Bob and Terry.
I love the like normal people names. It's like one of my favorite things in storytelling.
Yeah. And so he brings back KW to the fort And Carol is not happy that Bob and Terry are also there
Oh,
because he's jealous of them.
yeah.
And then they decide to solve this newest problem by having a dirt clod fight.
Oh, great.
More kid logic. And it ends in injuries and hurt feelings. And at this point, they've all started to figure out that Max maybe is not the real king that he says he is.
Right.
So Carol gets mad. He starts chasing Max around with the intent to eat him. And KW is able to protect him, but in the process, he overhears a conversation between Carol and KW that makes it clear, like, this isn't a situation that can be fixed. This is just the way the world works. Sometimes people grow apart and there's not anything you can do. And that's the conclusion that leads to Max's decision to go back home. And also, I miss my own family.
Yeah, my family would never eat me, even if they do accidentally destroy my snow fort.
Right, exactly. So we have the scene at the beach where everybody's saying goodbye. Please don't go. I'll eat you up. I love you so. And then it ends much the same way as the book, coming home and being welcomed and being able to rejoin with his family group and get the attention and love that he's been craving the whole time.
Yeah, kind of realize that, like, even though he felt unheard, he's still loved in this space.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Max. Oh my God. I see what you mean now about, like, the complicated emotions of the movie over the book. And kind of like illustrating it in a more like a real space that people might connect to.
Yeah. I don't know if this has ever been confirmed, but I kind of assume that all the wild things are meant to represent different parts of Max's personality. Like Carol is the one who's very, anxious and needy and is the hurt. KW is the kindness. You can tell from the dialogue that they're all voicing concerns that Max has had at some point in his life.
Let's actually dig into that then. Let's just go to, like, what do you think makes this movie so meaningful? Because I was wondering that myself when you were talking about the reactions at all of these little, they're gigantic. So first, if you haven't seen it, the wild things are huge. They're like 3 times the size of Max, the 8-year-old child. So like, but the reactions that they were all having felt like each of these monsters is something in him or some reaction that he has had or could be having.
Right. Like these characters all have kind of a child logic in the situation, the same way that Max does. So the reason that it resonated so much with me is like I mentioned earlier that, I'm neurodivergent. I have diagnosed ADHD, suspected autism, still figuring all that out.
Yeah.
But the way that Max, particularly emotionally, experiences the world felt extremely familiar to me. Like I was not a troublemaking kid, but I had those same kind of feelings, those same kind of impulses. I channeled them through writing kind of violent stories.
Yeah. It's one of those outlets, right?
Yeah. And it's an energy, the kind of like neediness and the need for everybody to be together, for everything to be okay all the time. Like that's something I recognize in myself even now. And I think it really helps to make Max that protagonist character that even though he's a kid, he has a lot of very relatable emotions that even adults feel. And it felt very familiar to me specifically as a neurodivergent person. He's very coded.
He is very coded. And it's also like putting you in the mind of the child in these spaces, like recognizing how neurodivergent or not, big things like a divorce, no matter how smoothly it goes, are going to have an outsized effect on your child. Right? And adding layers to that, like neurodivergency, or perhaps it doesn't go smoothly, or a move or anything else, it's going to like slowly kind of build up this energy and this kind of like anxiousness, even if like they seem like they're fine with it. Like kind of what you were getting at when you described this movie, like they're complicated emotions that maybe these kids don't have the tools to process. So it comes out in like destructive behavior or dumping snow somewhere or throwing a not quite fit while your mom's having a date. So this empathetic look into Max is a really kind of nice way to remind people of that. I don't think that was necessarily the intent, but I appreciate that view from it as well.
It's nice to have a kid protagonist who is not perfect, but is written in such a way that we do still sympathize with him and relate to him. I think it helps to have those.
Absolutely. I agree. So then let's open that up a little bit and say, like, what do you think makes this a tale of our time? Or what meaning do you think that others could or should find in this?
The way I would describe it to people is it validates my inner child. It's just the idea that, like, it is okay to be sad. It is okay to, it's kind of what, in the same way as we were talking about with Inside Out, I guess. It's all
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
feelings already. We're
Yeah.
just, it is normal and okay to have those feelings, to have moments where you need to run wild or do something chaotic. Even as an adult, like we are allowed to have those moments where we are less than perfect, where we might be troublesome or we might be angry or mean sometimes. And what's important is either finding ways to channel that or finding ways to make it right for people that you may have hurt in the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's important too. Something that always comes up with me when I would teach us books, a lot of times my kids would say, like, they're kindergartners, but they would be like, how come she made him dinner? Like, he was so bad. Like, he was so crazy. He was so bad. Like, why would the
Yeah.
mom make him dinner? Right. And it would be going back to like, well, where did that come from? Right. Like, maybe he was hurt and he
Yeah.
came home and he said sorry, and he's a kid. You're allowed to make mistakes. And also, like, would it be a kind thing to, in this mildly extreme case, like, not give him dinner? No, but why would she say that? Oh, she was also upset, right? So these are two people who were upset. They had a big reaction, and now they're coming together, and they're making it okay, right? Like, and then
Yeah, exactly.
based on the way that you've described it, the movie kind of like levels up that message also by like leveling up the complexity of the feelings involved.
Yeah, the whole beginning makes it clear right away Max is just going through a lot, you know?
Yeah.
And his family members are not available enough to help him really process that just by necessity. Like his mom is working and has a social life. His sister has her own social life, and
Yeah.
he has a hard time articulating what it is he wants and needs. But also nobody's a mind reader. And it's very easy to get into a situation where, you know, your needs, emotional or otherwise, are not being met and you don't really know how to express that. And it comes out as something probably worse than you intended.
Right. Well, and also like I'm always like a sucker for those kind of stories, right? Where like nobody's the bad guy here. It's just that life is hard, and sometimes you just have to accept there's just going to be some bad times, and it's not necessarily anybody's fault. Taking it to the monsters, right? Like, of course, poor Carol like doesn't want to grow apart from their friends. But that's just something that happens, right? Nobody's being a bad guy. Maybe other people care, but like one of those truths. And you'll be happy again in the future. It's just a sad kind of blip or a moment. Sometimes life is just hard.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that when this first came out, I looked it up. It was 2009, actually. But I think that message resonated with me a lot at that time because I had fairly recently gotten out of kind of a toxic relationship. So I was dealing with the changes of being like newly independent, of having my friends all be off at separate colleges, our friend group from home kind of going in different places. Honestly, it's something I keep coming back to whenever there's like major change in my life. It just, I see my own feelings in this child and in this monster. Let's be real.
It's kind of become like a comfort media in that way.
And I wouldn't honestly call it a feel-good movie, but I think it is a hopeful movie.
Yeah.
It's a cathartic movie. There is always the message at the end that like, we'll get through this. Things will be okay again. The people who love you will still love you, even if things change.
Yeah. Kind of a melancholic movie, perhaps, but the end of it is hopeful, or is.
Yeah, I'd call it bittersweet.
Calm. A bittersweet movie. I love that. So, unfortunately, we are out of time, but before we go, I'd like to ask you one more question. If you could give Where the Wild Things Are, the movie, a one-phrase subtitle of your very own, what would that be?
I would say embrace your inner monster.
Even if it's Carol, especially if it's Carol. Hold Carol close.
Especially if it's Carol. Carol needs a hug.
Oh, poor Carol. And Kate Dibby, they're all good. I haven't seen it and I want to see it now, like super badly.
I'd really recommend checking it out. It's a really fun watch. The soundtrack is magnificent.
Well, Carly, thank you so much for coming back on. I feel like the talks that we have always go into such meaningful emotional depths. I really appreciate your time.
I really like having the opportunity to talk about things that I enjoy, so everybody wins.
And also thank you to you out there listeners. This has been Tales of Our Time by Radio Taiwan International. I've been your host, Amanda Stevens, joined by our wonderful returning guest, Carly Trautwein. And we've been talking about Where the Wild Things Are. Embrace your inner monster. A tale of our time. We'll see you next time.